busted. I got busted. I got busted. What? I thought I was listo. Hello, friends and family, brothers and sisters. It says that we are live. I don't got my better half with me. She's at school. But you guys remember that we did Mariano Rodriguez, and this is Mariano Rodriguez's fall partner or partners. They're crimies. I don't even know the terminology anymore. But this is Fabian Fuentes. I've known Fabian since he was 21, I think. Yeah, 21 is what Mariano and I figured it out. He was just like Mariano, but I think between the two, he had he was more relaxed, more calm. So this is Fabian Fuentes, you guys. I just want to introduce you to them. Fabian, if you want, go ahead and introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about your life story and what happened. Your side, we got Mariano's side. Now we want to hear your side and see. So welcome to StuckInCali family. Everybody, welcome Fabian. We used to call him Fabulous. He's still fabulous. Hey, real quick. I said, my wife and I said fabulous to Mariano, and he had a big old smile.
Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Fabian Fuentes, and I come here, and to see Johnny here, it's a great feeling. I've been knowing him for a lot of years. Of course, we did some time together, and it's kind of crazy to think back that I was 21 years old when I met him, and that was 26 years ago, and of course. Mariano and I, we were super young. Johnny was young as well. That was in the late 90s, and we were just up to no good. We were up to no good as teenagers into young adulthood, and growing up in an environment where you see a lot of violence and there's just a lot of negativity. So you adopt that type of lifestyle, and into young adulthood, we were committing crimes of violence, and the only place that that we were destined for was either death or prison, and obviously we're still here. So prison was the place that we got sent to, rightfully so, and we spent a good majority of our young adulthood in prison, and I spent 17 years in there, and Mariano spent 26 years in there, and I spent 17 years in there and got out. It was a tough road, but I never went back. I chose that. I never wanted to go back. Not that it hasn't been, easy, but I didn't want to go back. I just did not want to go back to prison.
And I believe you had a close call, though, right? One time.
Yes, I did. So I actually, I was on parole. And, when I say that it wasn't easy, what I mean is, I got out with full intentions of, just wanting to do right. I wanted to be free. I wanted to do all the things that I never did before. I wanted to just complete parole. I wanted to buy a house. I wanted to own a car. All the things that I never had, I wanted to do. And in that process, the temptations are still there. Obviously, you get out, and women, alcohol, drugs, party, all those things that are just going on around you. And then one of the number one things too is wanting to catch up with the time lost, which you just can't catch up. So that time is lost, So I got stuck in the mind frame that I wanted to live fast. I wanted to live fast. I wanted to be with, I wanted to just be with as many women that I can. I wanted to party, and eventually just putting myself in toxic relationships, and not saying that it was one-sided. I was toxic as well. Alcohol, drugs. So I'm involved in these relationships that are just full of alcohol, drugs, partying, and which leads to just arguments, fighting, no trust, and just getting into a relationship where domestic violence was involved. And so I actually did catch another case of domestic violence. And I fought that case for a couple of years, and eventually it just I pled down to a probation, a sentence of probation, and it was about 2.5 years probation, and and I don't mean to say that like lightly, like nothing didn't happen, like there was no nothing that happened, but it was just a situation that that I was in. I was in a toxic relationship, for both sides, mine and hers, and I do take responsibility for for my actions. There's no excuse. There's no excuse, and it taught me a lot. It caused me to really look at the bigger picture. It caused me to sit down and reflect, do a lot of reflection, reevaluate where I want to be in my life, where I want to go, what I want my future to be like, and where I don't want to go, and that was prison.
So, what do you think was the important or the major factor of you staying out so far? It's been what, 7 years now? 7 years?
I've been
8
out
years?
10 years.
10 years, good. Good.
I've been out 10 years now, and the major factor in me wanting to stay out, is that was what the question was?
Yes.
Again, I had to sit down and really reflect, reevaluate, and I in the years that I've been out, and I went through some things. I went through I sat down and I really told myself, like, you know what, you have a problem with drugs, you have a problem with alcohol, and in that time, it was a few things that happened, and one of the things that happened was I was diagnosed with cancer. I was diagnosed with cancer at the beginning of 2018, and so around that time, my son's mom had told me she was pregnant with my son, and I was still in a bad kind of like a bad place mentally at the time. Drugs and alcohol being involved, and then being diagnosed with cancer. I don't think that it really hit me, because I feel like at the time I didn't even really care if I really lived or died. So I go through that, and it wasn't until like after I went through all of that stuff, like after I went through that, after I went through the close call of going back to prison, and really, I almost lost my life. I had to sit back, and during that reflecting and during that reevaluation of my own life, I started to just think, like, I remember one day After all that I've been through, I still felt like it didn't teach me anything. Like, like I almost died. I almost went, I almost lost my life because of cancer. And I remember I had a conversation with my daughter one day, and I was still moving pretty fast. And, nothing's working. Nothing's working. I can't get my life back on track. I can't stay sober. I can't progress in my art. I'm a tattooist. So I can't progress in life. My daughter says one day, because she had started recently, before that, started kind of going to church pretty heavy. And so she says one day, she says, why don't you try something different? So I was like, well, what do you mean try something different? She goes, why don't you try to go to church or something? And again, you know what? I always believed in God. I felt like I've always believed that there was a God, but I never applied myself. Like, I never just said, you know what? I'm going to try to find out who God is. I'm going to try to find out what church is about. And, at that time, and that was probably about 2019 now. And this was probably about the time that I was fighting another case. And it just hit me like, you know what, I do got to find out, maybe I should try something different. Nothing's working right now. Let me go ahead and just try something different. And so, I started attending church, and around that time is around the time that I met my wife, and my son, of course, he's born now. So I think those three things were a big factor on wanting to change my ways, and my ways of thinking, my ways of acting, my ways of reacting, and really those things being a factor on who I wanted to be.
So you would say it was God, your wife, and your son.
Absolutely, yes.
Man.
Mm-hmm.
So now as we talk and as we speak, and I see you sitting in your tattoo shop. You have a shop now.
Yes, I have a shop. It's like my third one, but this one's probably the most significant one of all. And what I mean by that, it's kind of I got a lot more on my plate. It's a bigger shop. I have a barber shop in the back. I have a tattoo shop in the front. I have people that are back there cutting hair, and up here, creating art. So there's more people involved now instead of just doing it for myself. So,
Right.
yeah.
That's good. And then you have a home. You have a home in Florida.
Yes, my wife and I, we bought a house out here in Florida. We moved out here we moved out here in the spring of 21, and we've been out here since.
And how do you like it compared to Greeley?
I love it. I love it compared to anywhere else. I know, you asked how I like it compared to Greeley, and when it comes to Greeley, I guess that's another topic, of course. But compared to Greeley, it's very slow motion. It's slow motion here. Of course, the weather is absolutely beautiful. We got a nice little house. We got a couple of dogs. We got the beach about 15 minutes away. So it's a beautiful thing. It's definitely different, from where I come from, and a lot different than what I'm used to. And we've created a life over here that I'm just blessed for. I'm absolutely blessed.
Man. So you go to Greeley periodically to go do tattoos and go visit your son, of course. So how does that?
You know what? That's a good question, because I don't go to Greeley to see my son. I go to Greeley to work. My son is nearby, so I go see him and he's near Greeley, but I go to Greeley to work because I have a lot of clientele there. So I am very, very blessed that a lot of my clientele is there in Greeley, and they really are the supporting factor behind my work, my bills, my everyday life. You know, my livelihood, and and you know what? I'm very grateful for the town of Greeley. Even though I don't have a lot of great memories there, I am grateful for the people that are there that support my artwork.
Okay.
You know, it's tough. It's tough for me to go back to Greeley. I do. It's not as tough, but when I say it's tough, I mean, like, there used to be a time, like when I first moved from over there, even when I first got out of prison, there was a lot of I was tense. There was a lot of negative triggers there. There was a lot of negative triggers before I got out, and then there was a lot of negative triggers when I moved out here and I would go back over there, because there's a lot of alcoholism and drug use from my past, and then things that, you know, in that town right there, you know, there's a lot going on. There's, you know, there's the people that I've known in the past, they still drink and stuff. So it was hard for a while for me to even go around anybody that was drinking or had anything remotely close to doing some drugs, even smoking weed, because it was negative triggers. Right. So I a couple of times I did relapse, and let me just say that I have been sober now for like 855 days. So
nice.
But for a while there, you know, going back to Greeley, it was kind of tough.
Right.
Yeah.
So what is that, like almost 3 years?
It's just about less than 2.5 years.
Yeah. Nice. That's good, bro. Keep it up.
Yeah, completely sober, man. Completely sober. No smoking, no drinking, no drugs, no none.
And life is good, right?
Yeah, life's good. Life's good. You know,
sober living.
I always tell my nephew it isn't all good. Life doesn't seem like it's always all good, but when it's constantly getting better, that's a good thing, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
So you said a couple years ago, or maybe longer, maybe like 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, that you weren't seeming to like you were getting anywhere. So now, how does it feel that you are getting somewhere?
It feels good. It feels good. You know, it's I've always been one that I wanted a lot on my plate, and so there's always been like stresses involved with that. You know, I don't want the bare minimum. You know, anything. I feel like my potential. I don't like to play, especially lately. Me getting older, I don't like to play with my potential. I feel like I got a lot of potential. I've always had a lot of potential, and now, you know, it does become, you know, with the business, you know, with traveling to see my son, you know, removing myself from my safe place, my home, you know, where I feel safe, I'm happy, peaceful. It does it's stressful at times.
Especially going back to Grelifas.
Yeah.
So so how is life like okay, what does your wife do? She does
she's an audiologist.
Audiologist, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I know that you told me last week you guys were going on a cruise. Did you guys go on the cruise already?
Yeah, we went on a cruise. That's something that, you know, I would rather not, you know. But one thing I've realized in my life and in my marriage is that, you know, my wife is the oil to this machine, you know, and she her happiness. I feel like her happiness definitely brings brings peace to this home, you know,
Right.
and her smile. So, you know, when it comes to simple things like wanting to go on a cruise and wanting to get away or wanting to go ride roller coasters, doing things that she loves to do, um, I'm not worried too much. I don't really put too much effort into all these things that I want to do. You know, like before, more. You know, my I feel like a lot of my purpose is wanting to just go on a cruise because she loves, you know, to do them type of things. So I just want to make her smile, you know, and go on a cruise, even though I feel wobbly when I get back, but it's all right.
You were wobbly.
Oh man, I be swaying like this for like a week. You know, I feel like I'm swaying. I can't get it together. Yeah, man.
Would that be like when you're in an airplane? What do you call that? That lagging or whatever?
Jet lag.
Jet lag.
Yeah.
Well, you
It's
fly a lot too, right? To
Yeah,
Colorado.
I fly a lot. I feel like I'm constantly feeling like I got like I'm hung over. You know, when I'm traveling, I travel a lot. I go from Colorado to, you know, to Washington and back, and then, you know, every month. So yeah, I do feel like I'm hung over. Uh,
I think my wife wanted me to ask you way at the beginning. Was it hard for you to adjust after doing 17 years?
Um, you know, I feel like yes and no. You know, it depends on what we're talking about. You know, so I think that it was easy for me to adjust when it came to um, talking to people. You know, talking to people and just communicating with people because you know I went through the process in prison before I got out, and I made it down to a minimum, and then you know, so I feel like at minimums you got people that are coming straight from the street. So one thing about progressing when you're in there down to a minimum is that the conversations are a lot different than when you're like on a closed yard. So
Right.
when you make it down to those to that level, you know, people are having conversations with you like because they're coming from the street and they literally were just out on the street like weeks before they were there, and so their conversations are a lot different. They're talking about phones, they're talking about vacations, they're talking about kids, they're talking about just a few weeks, a month, just being over in Cancun or something. You know, the conversations were a lot different. So hearing some of these conversations and being part of them, it kind of prepped me a little bit when I got out of just talking instead of talking one dimensional. You know, when you're in prison for so long, the conversations, I always tell people, the conversations are one dimensional. You're only talking about uh, uh, things behind those walls, you know, chow, gym, canteen, you know, and that's it. You're not talking about nothing else because you're not accomplishing anything. You're not doing anything. Your days are the same. So yeah, man. I think that the it was pretty easy adjusting after 17 years in talking to people. And plus I had, you know, there's counselors and stuff at minimums that are helping you. There's counselors, even some of the staff members there before you get out, they're communicating with you a lot. They're talking to you a lot. They're asking you questions. You know, you're getting out soon. You know, what is from the things you're gonna do? What are what are some of your goals? What are some of your aspirations? So you get into some of those things, and those things with the counselors and with the teachers and with the staff, it really helps prepare you for that. But I think one of the more tougher things is preparing you for you know, just some of the trials and the tribulations that you're going to be confronted with. You know, you're not talking about any of that stuff. You don't know any of those things. You're not prepared for any of those things that you run into. You know, relationships, especially relationships. Um, you know, you know, issues with family. Uh, you know, uh, you know, death. people may have passed away when you were in there, or maybe that they just passed away when you get out. A lot, some things like that I had to experience when I got out. It was pretty difficult.
So what would you say was the hardest thing for you while you were
Um,
in there?
Probably the hardest thing, probably for me, getting out. Oh, the question was, what was the hardest thing in there or getting out?
Yes, in there while you were in there. What was the hardest thing you had to deal with while you were in there?
Probably the hardest thing. Man, I don't know if there was really anything that was difficult while I was in there because because when you're in there, you adapt to it. So nothing's
Right.
really difficult. Um, some of these things that probably were difficult was probably reacting. Probably one of the most difficult things was reacting. You always want to react and just punch somebody, when it's just so easy just to punch somebody and just get it out the way and then suffer the consequences of that, and that's it. you know but when you want to change and you want to try to prepare yourself for getting out, because you can't just punch everybody when you get out. You have to start working on some conflict resolution skills, and you have to start
Right.
working on communication and acting and reacting. Every action has a reaction. So um that was kind of difficult. Yeah, after about 10, 12 years, I really started to work on that.
Right. The other question was, while you were in there, Fabian, did you get any counseling? Did you do any treatments, any counseling?
Yeah, once I got down to like the minimum, um I really took advantage of anything that they had to offer, because at that, it hit me after about 10, 12 years. It hit me like, damn, do I really want to be in here? Like, man, I don't want to be in here no more. Like, I started thinking like, dang, my mom's getting old. um I my daughter's already an adult. So I started really, really, just evaluating and reflecting on where I want my life to go. you know so I started reaching out to like some of the counselors and some of the staff, like, asking for help. And once you sit there and you ask for help, things change. Things change a little bit. Through conversations that you have, through some of these more, um, uh, through more of these um, questions that they ask, and going in depth about um, just more about, you know uh, childhood traumas, and a lot of other things, that it kind of helps. And I think that helped with the rehabilitation process, once I started reaching out for help.
Mariano said that he had a lot of anger because of childhood trauma. Would you say the same thing? That same thing happened with you, like maybe childhood trauma that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. One thing that I've done since I've been out, um, and even recently, is I've got certified in life coaching and mentoring, and that's something that I'm gonna dive deeper into, soon. But that really helped me to understand, like, when it comes to childhood traumas. I've always knew that, you know growing up in the areas in Washington State and in Colorado that I grew up in, especially in Washington, and seeing a lot of things that I seen as a kid, a lot of violence, a lot of yelling and screaming, within even my own family, arguments, and no really, no healthy communication. Um, so um, growing up in those areas, and they're, seeing a lot of that stuff. Of course, you grow up and you adopt kind of that lifestyle when you get, into like the teenage years and stuff. And even though I felt like I was good in school and I was playing sports, I was going home to a neighborhood where there was just gangs and there was just fighting, and a home where there was never any peaceful discussions. uh, so and then in a neighborhood where it's just constant gang activity and fighting, and um, so yeah, so I could say, a lot of that stuff, you develop childhood traumas, and you grow up, and when you have a discussion with somebody, you don't know how, once it becomes just a disagreement, or like a discussion or a debate about something, instead of just keeping it cordial and it being a discussion, it turns into, a fight.
Mm.
So yeah, so I could say that the childhood traumas definitely were part of the lifestyle that I adopted.
My wife wants to jump on, so I think she wants to ask you a question, but I don't know. I sent you the link. Uh, she's telling me what to do on my text messages. But she wants to jump on, but I can't find the link. Let me see. I might. Uh, yes. So I'm sure that your family, Fabian, I'm sure that your family is proud of you. Um, like how, and I'm sure that they're still giving you that support. Like, what is their thoughts, especially your mom and just your family? Like, can you talk about that? Like, how proud they are of you? I'm sure that they are.
Yeah, I feel like, of course, my family is very proud of me, and all the things that I've been through, being through prison, through cancer, um, even some of the setbacks that I've had, that, I've made it through that. And, all the things that I've accomplished, a lot of the goals. I feel like my family is very proud of me. They look to me as, being a positive influence in their lives. Especially now since I've got out. I've always worked out. I've always tried to stay positive about everything. I've always been into my health, and trying to stay healthy, and being an entrepreneur. Pushing family members to do a lot of the same. So um, my family, they've been there. They've been there. Uh, there were times where some of my family, I feel like they did a step back from me when I was going to court um, for the case I had. But once they seen and they heard exactly like what was going on, what went down, everything, then then they had I had talks with them and let them know where, what happened, where I stand. And but for the most part, yeah, they've been by my side. Um, I'm still close to a lot of my family. Not as close, obviously I live on the exact opposite side of the country as them, but I try to we're blessed to be able to FaceTime to the different social media sites, kind of keep up with everybody. So um, I do still communicate with them, and they're there for me. Hey, how you doing?
Hey Fabian, how are you?
Good, good. Thank you.
Looking good, brother. Looking good.
Thank
Proud
you.
of you.
Thank you.
Look at that smile. Good. The three of them have a smile that could light up any room.
Mhm.
Fabian, I don't know why we have an echo.
I don't have an echo on my
I
side.
don't have an echo either.
It's me. I'm sure it's because I have the app running or something. I don't know how to fix that.
You have to close
Okay.
everything off in the browser.
I don't know how to do that, babe.
Okay.
Hold on.
Babe, I don't know how much time Fabian has, so remember he's a business owner.
Nah, it's Monday. I don't even think anybody's coming in today.
No.
I got time.
Okay. He has time, babe. Did you copy me? Did you know I was wearing this shirt? Did you copy me, babe? Babe, are you frozen?
It's
I think
frozen.
she's frozen. Are you frozen, babe? Or are you just mean mugging me? Are you mad dogging me? Babe, are you frozen? I think she's frozen. You guys, as you guys come in, please tap that like button. Oh yeah, oh that's another thing before we forget. Do you have any social medias that you would like to shout out? We can go check you out.
Yeah, I'm on social media, Moolah_tattoos on Instagram. That's it really. I don't really have any other Instagrams. I mean,
Okay. Yeah, afterwards you could text that to me and I'll put it in the description box.
Okay.
Yeah, at least we see Kim's face. Somebody said it. At least we see Kim's face. Yeah, but, okay, I'm gonna take you off, babe, and then I'll bring you back on. Because you're frozen, babe. Okay, we're back. Well, how did you feel, bro? Oh, and I just want to say real quick. Also, we were there when you had cancer. We prayed for you. We sent letters to the judge. Let me see what else. Even though that we don't stay in constant communications, you and I, we have seen each other in Colorado, and you did some work on me and my wife, and we try to support you in all that we can. So I know that we haven't stayed like in constant communication all the time, but you know we're there, and I know you're there for us, and we're there here for you, and we've tried to help. You know, we were there. We prayed with you, and we prayed through the cancer with you, and you know, and then with the judge. So, and I know that you and Mariano, you guys are like brothers, best friends. So it was hard for me. I can imagine for you how when he had to go back after doing a month and a half.
Yeah, it was super hard. It was super hard. That's my brother, man. Been knowing him a lot of years. Been in in contact with him, throughout our bids, and it was tough. It was tough, especially it made it even more tough because knowing how much he wants it, how much he wants to be free, how much, when I look at him, I see a lot of the same things that I was going through when I got out. So when, after that much time, you get out and everything, you have this type of happiness to where you're oblivious to the ugliness of the world. Everything is just beautiful, so just seeing him when he got out and everything's just great. Like, there's a smile on his face because he was seeing the cars that are newer. He was seeing how life's just moving and how he's able just to go eat when he wants to eat. And so seeing all those things and having that happiness about him, that and that thankfulness and gratefulness that a lot of us that we don't have out here. Like we forget about those things sometimes. But when it's just when he gets out and he's just thankful for every little thing and grateful for every little thing, then, you know, seeing that and knowing that that he's got to go back and do a little bit, and he's going to be taken away from that, you know, from that little bit of happiness that he had for a month and a half. It hurt, man. It hurt. You know, it hurt.
I know that he was how can I say it? He was excited and about that bacon. He loved the bacon, bro.
Yes. Asking him what the first thing he wanted to eat was, and he said that it was bacon. You know, that he wanted just a plate full of bacon. You know, so now again, man, just being thankful to be able just to eat a plate full of bacon and just eat it. It's it was funny, man. It was cool. It was super cool. Yeah. Got him a plate full of bacon when he got out.
Yeah, it's like you said, you know, like out here you see you hear a lot of people complain about everything. So when you see somebody like that, they're so grateful about everything, even about just grateful about everything, so thankful and grateful. It's like it's so refreshing, you know what I mean? So, you know, and I'm glad that he came out and he had you, he had his family, he had us, that, you know, that when he gets out, you know, hopefully in months and not years, when he gets out, you know, we'll still be there for him. And, you know, it's just exciting, you know, to see that growth and, you know that you had a little bit of part, you know, we had a little part of that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's just to, you know, to be able to have a part in that is very, you know, that's where the gratification comes from, you know, from being able to help somebody. And you know, I was telling him, and I tell people the same thing. You know, I took an intense course on life coaching and mentoring because I want to get out there and I want to be able to help people that are getting out in the same way that I helped him out, and that I wish somebody was able to help me out. Right. I got out and I feel like I didn't have nobody there. Like, I didn't have nobody there to talk to. I didn't have any positive influences. It was like going all the way back to childhood again, teenage years, and I didn't have no positive influences in my life. And so at this point, you know, I'm married. I'm a business owner. I've made it through all these things that I've made it through, and I'm still standing. I'm still breathing, and you know, I have a story and I have an example that I'm setting for him. So I wish that I had somebody like that. So I'm grateful that I'm able to be that person for him, and even for others that are getting out or that are struggling. That, you know, it's possible, man. It's possible. You know, like I'm making it a point that I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna be that person that you could reach out to, that person that you could talk to, that person that you could ask questions, you know, on anything, whether it's relationships, whether it's business, whether it's you know, just how to carry yourself, how to think, you know, certain things, how to react, you know, conflict resolution, communication skills, all these things, man. So I'm just trying to be that person for him, you know, and that person for others as well.
That's good. My other question is, what you saying that you're taking some life, you took the course? How long was the course? In
It was about 9 months. It was 9 months.
Man.
It was an institution out of it was Jacksonville State University, and it was through them, and it was a 9-month course on life coaching and mentoring, and it really it dived deep into just one of the biggest things that stuck out for me for that and helped me on things that I want to do is goals. Like goals, setting goals, the proper way to set goals, and that's what I want to do. I want to help people. Even when I'm talking to Mariano, a lot of times, even my own daughter, it's talking to them about goals, because we can't get nowhere in life really if we don't have goals. And if we don't know how to set them, if we don't know how to accomplish them, and so that was a big thing that I got out of that I want to help others with.
That's good. There's one of our mods. His name is Perry Ochoa, and I've seen this a couple times. He says that my homie did 28 years. Said it was like being on another planet when he got out. Couldn't deal with it, and he went back. Man,
yeah,
it's like that. Sometimes it'll be like that. You know what I mean? That's hard, bro.
Yeah, I feel like it's like that a lot because you feel like you can't relate to anybody. You can't relate to nobody understands you. No, you can't relate to what anybody's saying, what anybody's doing, and the only people that you feel like you can relate to are people that have been to prison. People that. And what about when those people aren't around? And then and you're around your family that never been to prison, or you're around coworkers that never went to prison, like they talk differently than you, and they you're just not, you're not even rehabilitated to that level of where you feel like you belong outside of the walls. And so it is difficult, man. I've met a lot of people like that. And that's why I want to do what I'm setting out to do. I want to help individuals that are getting out, like in Mariano's, like his buddy that got out and went back. I want to be able to sit down and have one-on-ones with these guys that feel like they don't even belong out here. Like they don't belong. They can't relate to anybody. The only place that they feel even comfortable at is inside behind the walls. Like, because a lot of guys getting out, and women too, that they only feel comfortable having conversations that are one-dimensional, like I mentioned earlier. When it gets into more substantial conversations, then we're kind of lost. I was there. I was kind of lost when the conversations had a lot more substance involved. It took me a little while. I had to start asking questions. So that's another thing. That's why I want to work with you. You got to ask questions, man. Don't be afraid to ask questions when you get out. If you don't know what somebody's talking about, or you feel like you can't relate to them, just say, hey, look, man, I was locked up for a little while. I'm kind of a little lost in this conversation, and just not feel embarrassed about it, because a lot of times we get out and we are embarrassed that we don't even know what the heck somebody's talking about,
Right. So
that's where I want to come in and talk about conversations that you're going to have when you get out, and relationships that, when you get out, not jumping into relationships, things that you're going to go through at work when you're going for an interview, So a lot of those things play a part in staying out,
Right. It really hit me when I was talking with Mariano. He told me the first week was the hardest. He said, man, I was crying. Things got so, I was so had so much anxiety that, I just broke down and cried. And I told him, I said, I've been there, done that. Believe me, bro. And it's good. And it's okay to cry, bro, because, that's a release. You know what I mean? As men, we don't like to admit it. So, and that's why I'm so grateful and thankful that he was being open, honest, and transparent. It's hard for a man, especially, I don't know if you ever did solitary confinement. I think he was in there 8 years. I did 5. I did 3 and 2, but 5 together. I mean, different times, one at 3 and one at 2. So that's how I felt. So when he told me that, I felt I knew what he was talking about. Like, my wife, she's listening, and she could tell you too that there was times I would get so anxious that I would cry. I would just break down and cry, bro, because it was like, and it was embarrassing. But like you said, you know,
Yeah, it is like that. I obviously I did 17 years. I probably like the first 5 years into my sentence, I went to administrative segregation. I was in there for about close to 3 years. You know, so I
okay.
did my little taste of solitary confinement, and that's where I kind of lost myself a little bit. I kind of lost my way of thinking a little bit. Like I was kind of lost a little bit. Like I couldn't even really hold conversations good anymore with people. Like and that, you know, I had to really reach out to some of the counselors and stuff after that. But yes, so he was, and I'm very very. I picked him up, and I would make sure that I was with him every day for the first week that he got out, and I knew that it was important to just tell him that it was going to be all right, that that it was going to be all right, to just breathe. I made sure that when I seen him and I looked over at him and I seen that things were getting a little overwhelming, and I seen maybe some tears sliding down his cheek, just telling him, I know he didn't need a hug, he might have needed a hug, but just telling him, hey, it's gonna be all right, dog. It's gonna be all right, man. And just telling him just to breathe. Constantly telling him when I seen him feeling like he's overwhelmed, it's gonna be all right, man. Give it a few weeks, man. Things are gonna slow down. Things are gonna slow down. So, and that's what I did. I would take him places. I would take him to the gym to go work out. I would take him to the stores and walk down the aisles, just grabbing some things, some grocery stores, just grabbing some things, trying to do some of the normal things out here that ain't very normal for him.
Right. My wife. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, bro. Go ahead.
No, I was just telling him, just being right there by his side, man, by his side.
Yeah, that's a good friend and a good brother. That was good, bro. My wife wants me to ask you a couple questions. She wants to know, what are your thoughts on people changing people, places, and things?
What are my thoughts on people? What was that?
Changing your environment, like because like when you go to rehab or AA, NA, they say that it's important to change your people, places, and things. So, what are your thoughts on that?
People, places, and things. So, it depends on people changing, like. Like, is she asking like changing environments of like drugs and like negative environments? Is she talking about things that maybe like the person is the problem and they need to change the people, places, things? Or I'm kind of confused on the question a little.
So what do you mean, babe? The other question is she wants to know, have you experienced any discrimination in society with your criminal background and tattoos?
I'm gonna go into the first question first. And she had asked, what are my thoughts on people changing, and if people changing, does it have to do with people, places, and things? I feel like in order for me to change, I did have to change the people that I was around, the places that I would go, and some of the things that obviously that I would do. Some of the places when I was dealing with addiction on alcohol and drugs, I had to absolutely change my environment, period. I had to change my environment. I had to change the places that I went to, and I had to, change the things that I did. Like, I couldn't go, obviously, if I'm dealing with drugs and alcohol, like I can't be around no bars, you
Right.
know. If I wanted to not be influenced by some people, um, or or certain activities, then I had to change the people I was around and the places that I would visit. Um, so so yeah, it's you know, in order to change, man, you there's those three things, you know, changing the people you're around, the places you visit, and the things that you're involved in. It's a must. It's
Yes.
a must. You can't be sober, or you can't change your ways if you're around you know those negative environments and those triggers that trigger you to want to do drugs or want to uh, continue to have negative behavior. You just can't do it. You have to change.
Right. And
Yeah.
then the other one was how were you treated, or did you feel any discriminations because of your background and your tattoos? But I've noticed that a lot of your tattoos are gone. I believe you're removing them.
I removed the ones that are right here on my lower arms. I removed these tattoos. I had like a tattoo right here on the back of my arm that said Brown Pride on the back of my arms, really big. Um, I removed that as well. Um, uh, that's it, really. I and they were just all prison tattoos. The ones that I removed, they were prison tattoos, and they weren't bad or anything. Like I didn't have like gang tattoos or anything. I didn't have like I just had they were just like prison style tattoos. And so um I did feel like I was looked at some type of way when I did have those prison tattoos. But but I did remove them. I did remove them because I just, you know, it was a place and a time in my life that I had been involved in and that I was at, that I just wanted, that I personally wanted to, for that I, you know, I didn't want to just be reminded of that every day looking in the mirror.
Okay. And then you also said my wife says she has some funny comments. I feel mentoring. I also feel mentoring reentry. Yeah, I think you would be a good mentor, bro. Um, my wife says, uh, Listo. I'm bringing this up. She said Listo would have went back to prison if we would have stayed. Yeah, if we would have stayed in Colorado, she's right. I would probably ended up back in prison. Um, and since you my wife brought that up, just to let everybody know, you know, my name is Juan, but they call me Juan, Johnny, John, and Listo. But I think you and Mariano, I thought my name was Listo. Like everybody, even the cops, everybody knew me as Listo, right? Right, bro? Wasn't it Listo?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, in prison. Okay, we were in prison together. I don't think you were ever in prison with Mariano, were you?
Just for the first couple of months when we first went to prison. But you know, they of course pulled us in and told us we to go ahead and say goodbye because we ain't never going to see each other again.
What was that? What was that at?
Over in Cell House 5
In
in Kenya City.
territorial.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay. So at least you guys were together for a couple months.
yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's good. Yeah, because we were in prison together for a couple years in Sterling, right? In
Yeah.
Max, we were in the Max yard,
Hmm.
3 and 4, wasn't it? 3 and 4 or 1 2?
I'm not. I don't remember. It was on that prison though. Yeah,
Yeah, and then you said that you made it to the minimum.
yeah. In
That's
in
good.
in Buena Vista. Yeah.
Oh, in Buena Vista, not in Sterling.
No, no, not
Oh,
in Sterling.
oh, okay. Yeah, we were together in Sterling in the Max unit, the Max yard, and then so I just wanted to say that. So I really thought my name was like I really thought I really thought my name was Listo. But you know, bro, when we're born again and we have a renewing of our mind, you know, Romans 12:2 says the renewing of your mind, and God gets a hold of us and we become born again. I believe that He gave me a new name, and I started using my name that was that's in my birth certificate, which is Juan, and that's the name that I use. That's my legal birth certificate, Social Security. I feel like God just gave me a new name. Like, you're not Listo anymore. You know what I mean? You're not Johnny. You're not John. You're not Listo. You're Juan now. You know, I feel like He just gave me a new name, and when that happened, I just had like I was born again, and I had a new mindset. And I think that you were even surprised when we finally got together talking on the phone, and I told you that I had become a pastor and I had gave my life to God, and you know, I was married and had a daughter, and I think even you were surprised. Were you not?
Yeah, I was surprised. I was surprised, but at that time, right there, at that time, I mean, obviously, at that time, I was going through a lot in my life, and I felt like that it was that the person that you were and you were becoming and that you weren't anymore was somebody that I needed on my path to be who I was becoming myself. So I was very grateful for, you know, for you coming into my life at that time again.
And we were blessed as well, because you know, you have been an encouragement to us as well, and just seeing you mature, and not only mature but like spiritually, like because I would have never thought that you and Mariano would ever have anything or want anything to do with spirituality or with God. And now, you know, to hear Mariano talk about God and hear you talk about God, like, it's a blessing, bro. You know, it's a blessing that you guys, you know, that God has that, you know, reach out to you guys, and that you guys, you know, accept it. You know,
Yeah.
to me that was a blessing. um I don't know why my wife wants to know this, but my wife wants to know, did you fight a lot in prison?
I did. I probably not as much as a lot of others, but probably more than the average person. Yeah, I got into a lot of fights. I was just a little dude, so I felt like I always had to prove something, and and plus I was little, so I felt like if somebody was disrespecting, then I had to punch them first, because they were gonna just toss it, just pick me up and throw me across a room or something. I was so little.
Yeah, but one thing I know is that even though you were little, when we say little, because you're like 5'10", 5'9", but you were little, you were skinny. But the word that I remember is, don't play with him because he will fight. You know, that's what I heard. That's what I knew. The word in the yard was, Fabian might be fabulous. They called you fabulous. Fabulous might be small, but he will get down with you. And I don't know if you remember or not, but one year that I was there and you were there, I got into 5 fights in 1 week. And I remember they came and they told me, I'm not going to say who the organization or the group. They came and told me, hey, you need to quit fighting because you're bringing too much heat on us. And I told them, I said, you know what? And this is when I got in trouble with them. But I mean, I didn't go nowhere. I stayed there. I never ran for nobody. And you know that, Fabian, you were in prison with me. And they told me, hey, you're fighting too much, bro. Because I got in 5 fights in 1 week. And they said, you're bringing too much heat on us. So you need to quit fighting. I said, you know what? If somebody disrespects me, I'm going to handle mine. So you can go back and tell whoever sent you that ain't nothing going to change. Listo is going to be listo.
I remember that time. I do remember we were on the same yard at that time. I remember at that time I got into a couple of fights as well. I remember you were out there lighting people up. Yeah, I do remember. I think that was probably like the 1 and 2 yard at the time.
Yes. Yeah. So there's your answer, babe. Jonathan Mania says, little things come in big packages. Yeah.
Yeah, man. There's, Mariano's a little guy. He was littler than me, and and you know, he was fighting, like he wasn't just fighting, like he was hurting people. He was probably like a $130, and he was hurting dudes that were like grown ass, you know, men.
Yes.
You know, so definitely little dudes, man. They, you know, some of them they're just built like that.
Right. And especially if you came out to relieve us.
Yeah, but it really does you know, it does bring up a lot of violent individuals, man, that just that don't give a dang.
You know, and talking about Greeley, I'm still praying and hoping for a miracle for Scandalous Nehemiah. You know, I would love to see him out here. You know, it's a blessing. You know, it encourages me to see you out here, and then I know that Mariano will be out here next. You know, we just got to keep praying for him that God will give him a favor with the system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really hope that Nehemiah does get another chance, man. I've known him a lot of years too. You know, since we were very young, you know, we used to run the streets together as well, and just causing havoc, and so just like Mariano, it was, you know, Mariano and I, we you know, we grew up robbing and stealing and you know, jacking cars and home invasions and all kinds of crazy stuff, man, as kids. And none of it, of course, that I don't say that proudly or anything like that.
Right.
My point to saying it is, like, even with Scandalous, you know, we were youngsters selling drugs and robbing. And so with Mariano, seeing him when he got out and seeing that he was going to work, man, seeing that he was going to work, that I'm going to work, and we're accomplishing these things, and nowhere in our mind is the thought of hurting somebody. You know, nowhere in our mind is the thought of robbing somebody or getting extra money by stealing it, or, you know, any by any means like that. So you know, just to think of Nehemiah getting out, and I know that he's gonna do well, just like Mariano was doing well, just like I'm doing well. It's I hope he does, man. He is in my prayers though.
Right. My wife wants to know, when did you start getting in trouble? At what age?
You know what? I was one of them real quiet, bad kids. You know, I was real sneaky. Like, I had an older brother that wasn't, you know, he wasn't the greatest example. You know, like he was, you know, he was always in some stuff. You know, stealing and they fighting and burglarizing. So I just remember my thought process was, I used to see him go to jail and stuff and get taken by the cops when I was like 12, 13 years old. And I didn't want to go to jail, and I didn't want to, you know, the cops to take me anywhere. So I started doing burglaries, but I was doing them at about 12, 13 years old. And I just wasn't getting caught doing them, just because I used to just be, you know, I was just trying not to get caught, so I was trying to be as slick as possible. But yeah, man, just a little badass kid at 12, 13 years old, you
know. Somebody wants to know, do you know Johnny Hammer or Mike Avena?
Those names don't seem familiar.
Mike Avena in Cali. No, he says those names don't sound familiar. Johnny Hammer or Tattoo Mike Avena.
Mm-mm.
No, yeah, sorry. Fabian did his time in Colorado. He didn't do time in California, right? You never did no time in California.
No, just Colorado.
Colorado, yeah. So if anybody has more questions, I have two more questions that I'm going to end with. Or is there anything else you would like to say? Okay, well, I'm sorry. No, you're good, Vic. He just did all his time in Colorado. So like on days like this where it's slow, like what do you do?
You know what? I always have something that I can do. Especially it's a new shop, so we've only been here for about 4 months. I got a sign that I'm working on. There's some murals that I want to put up on the wall. You know, we could always, sweep and mop the floors. There's always something to do. You know, clean the windows outside, work on some drawings, work on some sketches. You know, there's always something to do. But I always find something to do. I'm always find something to do. I knew that this would be a good day to do this, so this is something that is filling up a good portion of my afternoon schedule.
So and you're still helping people by doing this interview because you're teaching some other people because I really haven't talked about my background or doing time. So but by you and Mariano coming on here and talking, you're also we never know who might see this and who might be encouraged. You know what I mean? My wife wants to know who was your dad in your life?
No, I did. It was I was raised by my mother, and she was a single mother, and I had 9 brothers and sisters, 9 siblings. There was 10 of us all together.
Hmm.
No father, no positive male role models, no father figures. I had my uncle, but he wasn't like an everyday role model or father figure.
My wife says that she has 2 tattoos, and one of them's from you, and the other one's from Ernie Luna. Remember Ernie Luna?
Yeah. Oh, Ernie, yeah. I don't know what happened to him, but yeah, I remember him.
Somebody says, "Thank you, Fabian. Blessings to you and and keep filling your heart with love." Let me see. We appreciate your time, Fabian, and thank you for sharing with us. Where's your tattoo shop located at?
I'm located in Palm Coast, Florida. It's near Daytona Beach.
But Rico, the best time and the best place for you to get a tattoo from Fabian would probably be in Colorado. Like whenever we go up there, as soon as this stupid court case is over, we plan on going up there for like 3 or 4 days and then going to Texas. So that'll probably be the best time, unless you just go up to Colorado by yourself. Excuse me. So I think Rico wants some tattoos.
I got you, man. Be in Colorado.
Fabian ever journal? My wife wants to know, did you ever journal or write any of your experiences?
I did. I used to journal and write down a lot of my experiences and a lot of my my goals and my aspirations before I got out. I'm not sure if that stuff is still in my mother's storage unit that she has, but I've thought about asking her and going and get it and look at some of the things that I've wrote down. But yeah, I have before in the past when I was locked up. Lately what I've been doing is I write letters to my son. My son is 6 going on 7, and I only spend a small amount of time with him when I go to Colorado. And what's really helped me, maybe it'll help others that are dealing with maybe the same situation that I'm in with my son, is I write letters to my son, and I have them titled "Letters to Link." And one day my son's gonna see them letters. I don't spend a lot of time with my son. I call him on FaceTime and I see him once a month, but it's kind of helped me, for journaling, when I write down these things and I write them down to my son and tell him about, a lot of what I'm going through, what's going through my mind, some of my accomplishments, some of my goals, telling them on a daily, or whenever I write it down, tell him that I love him and just kind of journaling for him.
And I think that's what, like, I see the things that you do, the things that you post, and I've seen them, and I think and I know that you're a good father to your son, because like you didn't have a father, but you made it an effort and you fought for him to be in his life, and that's good. That's good, Fabian. Like, so what do you think, or who do you think, like, since you didn't have a father figure, like who do you think would have uh, fill that role for you, or who do you think would have, been an encouragement for you, like a male role model?
That who would have been one for me back then?
Yeah, or who was one for you?
I didn't have none, bro. I didn't have none. The streets were my role model, and
Right.
obviously we seen how that turned out. I didn't have none, and so it is a big reason why I feel like I have a responsibility to be in my son's life. Whether
Right.
it's only for a little bit of time while I'm there and I go down, I make it a priority to go see him once a month, and I FaceTime him a couple of times a week. That's more, in just 1 week of me doing that was more than my dad ever did in my life. And so, it's very important to me. And if there's anybody watching this and is in a similar situation with me and they're fighting for their kids, I strongly encourage you to not give up. And the reason that I say don't give up is because it doesn't matter how hard you fight. It doesn't matter how hard you fight, what you do, fighting the courts, fighting your BM, so to say, or whatever you want to call her, your kid's mom, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter what you do, who's in the right and who's in the wrong. You could be all in the right on what you're doing, trying to fight for your kid. But the moment that you walk away from that fight is all your kid's going to remember. The only thing your kid's going to remember is that you walked away from that fight, that you did not do enough. You might want to, you might have people in your ear telling you, you know what, when they get older, they're going to understand this, or they're going to understand that. You could tell them when they get older, they're going to know. No, they're not. All they're going to remember is that you walked away, you gave up on them, period. That's it. They're not going to remember anything else. So I want to encourage people that are going through what I went through, to don't give up on your kid, man. It's not worth it. I don't care what you got to do. You go broke if you have to, fighting for your kid, because they're going to remember you fought for them, you didn't give up, and you're still there.
That's good. It is kind of embarrassing or a shame for me, because I fought for two of them. I fought for two of my daughters. I'm not going to say their names because we have weirdos. The weirdo that's has us in court right now, so that's the reason I'm not going to say their names. But they're both in Colorado, and you're right, bro. I wish I would have fought. I wish, because I did fight, and I was in the villa. I was in a rehab, or what would the villa be considered?
A halfway house.
Halfway house. I was at a halfway house, and I was fighting for my daughter, for one of them at that time, and then later on I was fighting for the other one. And you're right, bro. I gave up, and I was told the same thing. Oh, they'll understand. They'll understand when they turn 18. You know what? You're 100% right. They don't understand, and they still hold it against me. And they don't understand, bro. And they, like I said, you're right. You're 100% right, bro. They don't understand. And like one of them keeps asking me, like, why didn't you fight for me? Like, but little does she know I did. And I tried to tell her I did fight for you, but
it doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter what you say. Just the fact of the matter was you did give up. So, when you do give up and you don't, they don't understand that. They'll never understand that. Just like me, like I'll never understand if my dad came into my life right now and he showed me everything that he could possibly show me and said, this is why, look, this, man, I'm gonna be like, man, shut up. You didn't do enough. That's plain and simple. That's just what it's going to be. And I told myself, I literally had family members telling me, you know what, just stop right now. This is, it's too stressful. It's stressing you out. When he gets older, he's going to understand. No, they're not. They're not going to understand, because I was once a little boy. Now I'm a grown man, and I'll never understand why I wasn't enough. I'll never understand why I wasn't important. I'll never understand why you didn't love me, because you don't walk away from somebody that you love. You don't give up on somebody that you love. And so that's why I've never gave up on my son.
Amen. That's good. Yeah. So that's kind of like a wake up call for me that, they're over 18 now. They're adults, except for Minnie. But, yeah, you're right, bro. And I wish I would have. And my wife tried to tell me, she said, keep fighting. I was like, no, for what? It's not worth it. It's not. And you're right, bro. I wish I would have kept fighting. I wish I would have not gave up and not quit. Yeah. And now I understand, like, exactly what you just said. That's how they feel. And now I understand, because I couldn't understand at first. I was like, man, I cried. I rode my mountain bike through a blizzard. You know how Colorado has blizzards, and from the halfway house, I rode my bike, and they don't understand that. They don't see that. But like you said, it's because I quit. I shouldn't have quit. I shouldn't have gave up.
Yeah, that's all. That's all they'll remember. And like I said, anybody that's watching this, that's going through that, or that potentially might go through that, you can't give up, man. You can't give up. Keep fighting. I spent thousands and thousands of dollars, fighting for my son for 5 years before I was granted parental rights. And so it'll happen. It'll happen if you don't give up through the grace of God, and just prayer. It's going to happen. Every parent out there, it doesn't matter what kind of history you got, what you've been through, you do have rights. And so as long as you're doing what you're supposed to do, to rightfully be a parent to the kid that deserves a parent, both parents, then you'll get there.
Wow, you're the most, definitely. Thank you, Rico. I appreciate that. I was gonna say, I have two questions, and then we're done. We've already been on for like an hour and a half, and I appreciate you, bro. I've been wanting to do this, and I know how busy you are, so but I'm glad that you reached out after, we did Mariano's. You said you were willing to do one and help us out, and it really does help us out. I have two. Oh yeah, I have actually three. Okay, babe, I'll ask him. And this question was kind of sad with Mariano. Like it kind of made me cry because he didn't have one. So my question, my wife's question to you is, what is your favorite childhood memory?
You know what? I don't have a lot of good childhood memories, man. And I tell people, and I even tell my own family this. I've told my mom this, that I didn't have a great childhood. I don't really talk much about my childhood. But one thing that I will say, and it has to do with my mom. There is, I remember, growing up, there were times we were homeless. We were broke. We didn't have money. I just remember not having any of the other things that the kids had. They're including happiness, man. Including happiness, And so, but one thing I do remember is it was cold outside, and I had been probably about 11 years old, about 10, 11 years old. We were living in a basement of a house that was converted into like apartment, and it was cold as heck in there. And I remember one time my mom, and I believe this was a big reason that my mother taught me to look out for others, to be generous, and even on things that didn't have to do with money, to just be generous, with your time, with your effort. My mother went grabbed our blankets. It was so cold. She grabbed our blankets. I don't remember what this. She went and put them in a dryer. I think that upstairs, and warmed the blankets up, and then brought the blankets back down, and wrapped us in these blankets. And I remember that's how I fell asleep. And I fell asleep warm. And that probably there was something that I still remember till this day, that has taught me to, obviously it taught me, how much my mother loves me, but it taught me, man, just to be generous. Like I said, with your time, with your effort, thinking of others, not just myself, so that's probably one of my greatest childhood memories right there.
Your mama's love.
Yeah.
That was love right there. Yes. Okay, I just have a couple questions and then we'll be done. Fabian, what are your thoughts? Because you travel between 3 states: Washington, Colorado in the middle, and then Florida at the end. So it's like big old slash, big old.
Yeah.
So you're in 3 different states. What do you think is the homeless population getting worse?
You know what? I go to here in Florida where I'm at. From what I can see, I don't see a great homeless population here. I'm sure that it does exist. They're probably just more scattered into areas to where you can't see them. You know what I mean? In Colorado, I feel like that over there has gotten a lot worse. But I don't keep track of any numbers or statistics or any programs or anything that has to really. I don't watch news. I don't watch much TV. I don't even really travel into areas like bigger cities and stuff. But like in Denver, I do travel a lot in Denver. I know the homeless population in there is pretty big. You could see them. They've designated them to like a certain area, like in the downtown area. It's pretty big right there. A lot of homelessness and drug use and stuff right there is pretty open. In Washington, I see it. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Yeah.
In Washington?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. What's the capital there in Washington? Salem? No.
In Washington, it's Olympia.
Olympia.
In Seattle, like they have a lot of homeless population right there. That's pretty big. It's pretty big there. Yeah.
So, have you been able to talk with Mariano yet?
Yeah, I talked to him the other day. I haven't talked to him the past few days. Over the weekend, I did talk to him. I talked to him on Friday, I believe it was, and he's in pretty good spirits. His eligibility is in like 7 months, probably come down to about 6. Nice. So he'll see parole then, and I do believe that his chances are high that he will get granted parole, especially if he stays out of trouble. Him getting out, doing well for even just a small amount of time that he was out here, and then willingly going to court and settling that case and choosing to go back on his own. That's going to play a part also.
What do you think his chances are? Going to a medium or a minimum?
I think pretty high. I think I know that he has a minimum
charge.
Like the charge that he has would be for eligible for like a minimum, but right. It depends. They might use his history and where he was at against him and send him to a medium or a max. I'm not sure yet, but hopefully in a minimum where his chances are better that he could just be left alone and just do his little 6-7 months and get back out.
Good. Is there any closing words that you would like to say that you would want our subscribers to know? And I think they're already asking if you would do an update, a follow-up.
Yeah, I can do a follow-up. I would love to do a follow-up when my bro gets out, and it's like 6-7 months, and we can both jump on here at the same time. But yeah, you know, some closing words. You know, obviously, I'm sure you guys can tell and heard by me saying, you know, the impact that I want to make on people trying to make change, and change is possible. Doesn't matter where you've been, what you've been through, any of your background, your childhood, you know, change is possible. Change is possible. You know, with through my faith in God and you know, my perseverance. You know, there's a lot of people out there that, you know, you guys are strong, man. You guys are strong. You're stronger than you think. Change is possible. Again, it doesn't matter what you've been through, where you come from, or where you're at. Like, it's, you know, whatever you're going through, you know, things are going to get better. Things are going to get better. You know, all the places that you dreamed about that you didn't think that were possible, you know, you can do it. And,
yeah. Good
yeah.
word, bro. Well, Fabian,
especially addiction, y'all. Especially addiction. You know, addiction is something that I went through, that I've seen a lot of family members go through. I still see them going through till this day. And you know, 855 days sober. 855 days sober I've been through. You can do it too, y'all. The streets don't love you. You know, them drugs don't love you. You know, your family loves you. God loves you. Let's go.
Let's go, amen. That's right. All right, Fabian. We appreciate you, and I hope that you don't mind that I call you fabulous. Hey, because the new and improved fabulous.
All right, man. Hey, man, thanks for having me on here. So I appreciate it, man.
Hey, we love you, bro.
I love you too, man. You take care.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, hold on. Let me see real quick. I'll end it, and then that way I can still talk with you. Let me just end it real quick. Okay.